the rest of the field in search of a breakthrough. The president, Ron Paul, the libertarian, billing himself as the freedom fighter in the race. The Tea Party's support and the Republican nomination on the line right now.
To the Florida State Fairgrounds here in Tampa, the site of the first ever Tea Party Republican presidential debate. 1 year from now, right here in Tampa, the Republican National Convention will nominate the Republican candidate for president of the United States, Texas Congressman Ron Paul. Texas Governor Rick Perry. And I'll work to try my best to make sure that each candidate is getting his or her fair share of the questions and the answer time. And as I mentioned, the Tea Party activists will be asking questions here in the hall as well as from our remote sites. And viewers, you too can participate. We're accepting questions for the candidates on Twitter. Make sure to include hashtag CNN Tea Party. On Facebook, and of course, on CNNpolitics.com. Each candidate will have about 1 minute to answer questions and 30 seconds for follow-ups and rebuttals. I'll make sure that each candidate gets the time to respond if they are singled out for specific criticism. It's important that the American public knows where the candidates agree on the substantive issues and where they disagree.
I'm Congressman Ron Paul, a congressman from Texas. I've been in Congress for 20 years. My goal has always been to promote the cause of liberty and to obey the Constitution. I plan to do that as president as well.
With Governor Perry that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme.
Well, I agree that Social Security is broke, and we spent all the money, and it's on its last legs unless we do something. One bill that I had in Congress that never got passed was to prevent the Congress from spending any of that money on the wars and all the nonsense that we do around the world. Now, the other thing that I would like to see done is a transition. I think it's terrible that the Social Security system is in the problems. It has the problems that it has. But if people wouldn't have spent the money, we would be okay. Now, what I would like to do is to allow all the young people to get out of Social Security and go on their own. Now, the big question is how would the funding occur?
All right, hold that thought for a minute, because I want Herman Cain to get involved. The private sector. Congressman Paul, what about you? Would you repeal it?
Well, we shouldn't have never started it. I voted against it, but that sure wouldn't be on my high list. I would find a lot of cuts, a lot of other places. Matter of fact, on Social Security, it is already being reformed because the cost of living increases aren't there, so the value is going down. So, no, there's places we should cut, and we spend, and I'm not sure I can get anybody to agree with me on here, on this panel, but we spend $1.5 trillion overseas in wars that we don't need to be in, and we need to cut there, and then put this money back into our economy here. And that is the only way to achieve it. Then it still wouldn't be enough in order to get some people out. What we need to do is cut the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, and all these departments and get rid of them, then we can do it.
We're going to get to national security
at those federal levels.
Congressman Paul, you're from Texas. Does your governor deserve all that credit?
Not quite. I'm a taxpayer there. My taxes have gone up. Our taxes have doubled since he's been in office. Our spending has gone up double. Our debt has gone up nearly triple. So, no, and 170,000 of the jobs were government jobs. So I would put a little damper on this, but I don't want to offend the governor because he might raise my taxes or something. But I would like to mention something that was said earlier about a tax cut, and how do you pay for a tax cut? I think that's the wrong principle, because when you give people their money back, it's their money. You don't have to pay for it. That means the government owns all of our money if you look that way.
All right. So
we have to cut the spending, and a good way to start, there's a little embassy we built over in Baghdad. It cost us $1 billion. It's bigger bigger than the Vatican. That's what's bankrupting this country, and that's the easy place to cut. That's where we should be cutting.
Governor Perry, you have 30 seconds to tell Congressman Paul whether you're Gingrich. Some of the biggest companies in the United States, the oil companies, they get, I guess what some would call government handouts in the form of tax breaks, tax exemptions, loopholes. They're making billions and billions of dollars. Is that fair?
You know, I thought for a second you were going to refer to General Electric, which has paid no taxes.
My name is Linda Gunn. I'm from Portsmouth, Virginia. I'm part of the Virginia Taxpayers Alliance. My question has to do with executive orders. Under what circumstances should a president sign an executive order, and how frequently should such an order be signed?
Congressman Paul.
The executive orders have been grossly abused by all administrations for a lot of years. But you can't, but some executive orders are legal. When the president executes proper function of the presidency, like moving troops and other things, yes, it's done with an executive order. But the executive order should never be used to legislate. That is what is so bad. So the executive order should be taken under control, and I've made a promise, if as president, I would never use the executive order to legislate.
Governor Perry, executive order requiring little girls, 11 and 12-year-old girls, to get a vaccine to deal with a sexually transmitted disease that could lead to cervical cancer. Was that a mistake?
It was, indeed. If I had it to do over again, I would have done it.
It was simply wrong. It is the wrong course for America. It is not what we did in Massachusetts. The people of Massachusetts favor our plan by 3-1. And states can make their own choices.
All right.
I'm happy to stand up for what we did, but I'll tell you one thing, what he did is wrong for America, and I'll stop it.
Thank you, Governor. Before I get to Michelle Bachmann, I want to you're a physician, Ron Paul, so you're a doctor. You know something about this subject. Let me ask you this hypothetical question. A healthy 30-year-old young man has a good job, makes a good living, but decides, you know what? I'm not going to spend $200 or $300 a month for health insurance because I'm healthy, I don't need it. But, you know, something terrible happens, all of a sudden he needs it. Who's going to pay for if he goes into a coma, for example? Who pays for that?
In a society that you accept welfareism and socialism, he expects the government to take care of it.
What do you want?
But what he should do is whatever he wants to do and assume responsibility for himself. My advice to him would have a major medical policy, but not before.
But he doesn't have that. He doesn't have it, and he needs intensive care for 6 months. Who pays?
That's what freedom is all about, taking your own risk. This whole idea that you have to prepare and take care of everybody.
But Congressman, are you saying the society should just let him die?
No. I practiced medicine before we had Medicaid in the early 1960s when I got out of medical school. I practiced at Santa Rosa Hospital in San Antonio, and the churches took care of them. We never turned anybody away from the hospital, and we've given up on this whole concept that we might take care of ourselves, assume responsibility for ourselves, our neighbors, our friends, our churches would do it. This whole idea, that's the reason the cost is so high. The cost is so high because it dump it on the government, becomes a bureaucracy, it becomes special interest, it kowtows to the insurance companies and the drug companies. Then on top of that, you have the inflation. The inflation devalues the dollar. We have lack of competition. There's no competition in medicine. Everybody's protected by licensing. We should actually legalize alternative health care, allow people to practice what they want.
Congressman Bachmann, go ahead and weigh in on this hypothetical 30-year-old who needs 6 months of intensive care.
Has a major threat to us.
Congressman Paul.
First thing I would like to do is make sure that you understand there's a difference between military spending and defense spending. I'm tired of all the militarism that we're involved in, and we're wasting this money and getting us involved And I agree, we are still in danger, but most of the danger comes by our lack of wisdom on how we run our foreign policy. So I would say there's a lot of room to cut on the military, but not on the defense. You can slash the military spending. We don't need to be building airplanes that were used in World War II. We're always fighting the last war. But we're under great threat because we occupy so many countries. We're in 130 countries. We have 900 bases around the world. We're going broke. The purpose of al-Qaeda was to attack us, invite us over there where they can target us, and they have been doing it. They have more attacks against us and the American interest per month than occurred in all the years before 9/11. But we're there, occupying their land. And if we think that we can do that and not have retaliation, we're kidding ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves. What would we do if another country, say China, did to us what we do to all those countries over there? So I would say a policy, a foreign policy that takes care of our national defense, that we're willing to get along with people and trade with people as the founders advised. There's no authority in the Constitution to be the policeman of the world and no nation building. Just remember, George Bush won the presidency on that platform in the year 2000, and I still think it's a good platform.
All right, let me let Senator Santorum respond, because I know you strongly disagree.
As long as this country follows that idea, we're going to be under a lot of danger. This whole idea that the whole Muslim world is responsible for this and they're attacking us because we're free and prosperous, that is just not true. Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda have been explicit. They have been explicit, and they wrote and said that we attacked America because you had bases on our Holy Land in Saudi Arabia. You do not give Palestinians a fair treatment, and you have been bombing. I didn't say that. I'm trying to get you to understand what the motive was behind the bombing. At the same time, we had been bombing and killing hundreds of thousands of Iraqis for 10 years. Would you be annoyed? If you're not annoyed, then there's some problem.
All right, we're going to stay on this subject. We have a question from the audience. Go ahead. Please identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Sahar Hikmati. I was brought here by Ronald Reagan. I am from Afghanistan, and my question to you is, as the next President of the United States, what will you do to secure safety and protection for the women and the children of Afghanistan from the radicals?
Governor Huntsman.
We are 10 years into this war, Sohar. America has given its all in Afghanistan. We have families who have given the ultimate sacrifice, and it's to them that we offer a heartfelt salute and a deep sense of gratitude. But the time has come for us to get out of Afghanistan. We don't need 100,000 troops in Afghanistan, nation building at a time when this nation needs to be built. We are of no value to the rest of the world if our core is crumbling, which it is in this country. I like those days when Ronald Reagan, you talked about, when Ronald Reagan would ensure that the light of this country would shine brightly for liberty, democracy, human rights, and free markets. We're not shining like we used to shine. We need to shine again, and I'm here to tell you, Sahar, when we start shining again, it's going to help the women of Afghanistan, along with any other NGO work that can be done there, and the collaborative efforts of great volunteer efforts here in the United States. We can get it done, but we have to make sure that the Afghan people increasingly take responsibility for their security going forward.
Very quickly to Governor Perry, $2 billion a week. Is that money well spent by U.S. taxpayers in Afghanistan?
Well, I agree with Governor Huntsman when we talk about it's time to bring our young men and women home as soon and obviously safely as we can.
And because of my grandson Robert, we'd have a very large chess set, so it would all come together.
Congressman Paul.
I'd bring a bushel basket full of common sense, and I would also bring a course in Austrian economics to teach the people the business cycle and why the Fed creates inflation and depressions and all our unemployment problems.
Governor Perry.
It's simple. I'm going to bring them.